Good morning, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to this morning's meeting of the Architecture Review and Planning Board of Thursday, April 20. Am I not on? Can you not hear me?
I got you now.
Should we start again? Good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to this morning's meeting of the Architectural Review and Planning Board of Thursday, April 27th, 2023. And with that, I'd like to open the meeting. Renee, please can you take the roll call?
Mr. Roach?
Here.
Mr. Smith? Here. Mr. Canfield?
Here.
Vice Chairman Doherty?
Here.
Chairman Murphy?
Here. Next, I'd like us to consider the meeting minutes from March 23rd, not as the date on the minutes we had. It's February, but this was March. This was the last meeting. So if anyone would like to make a recommendation, a motion to approve them or any additions or changes, could we have it, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes. Second.
Mr. Roach?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith? Yes. Mr. Canfield?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Doherty?
Yes.
Chairman Murphy?
Yes. Any additions, withdrawals, deferments of agenda items?
Mr. Chair, I just want to note that we have under items by staff, number 7, referral from Town Commission, application materials for level 2 and level 3 architectural site plan review. That is something that we had discussed. We're going to address it at the end of the meeting, but I just wanted to call your attention to that while we review these applications to see some of the things that you think maybe should be required for level 2 or level 3 as far as the sufficiency of the presentation and those materials that were submitted for you. All right.
Thanks, Trey. Okay. You can all see the forthcoming dates of our meetings. No meeting in August. Is there anybody who's not available for the dates presented to us?
I won't be here next month, Renee.
June is bad for me, Renee.
Thank
July 27th, I'll be gone.
I think you're gone June and July.
Thank you for that. You are correct. I'm sorry. Yeah.
And now we move to the public hearing part of our meeting this morning.
Did you
Curtis?
say ex parte communication?
Sorry, I've missed that. I'm coming on to that. Yeah, sorry, Curtis. The public hearing we now move on to, and can I ask for any declaration of ex parte communication?
I had a discussion with the lawyer from the Seedman's application, and you know, I spoke with her briefly just to tell her that I did not feel comfortable talking with her, and that you know, and that was the end of the conversation.
Okay, thank you, Curtis. And moving on, Renee, please can you administer the oaths to anybody who wishes to speak this morning?
You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, the whole truth. Except your names if you do speak.
Thank you, Renee. And so we move on to the first application presented to us this morning, and we have the Gulfstream School Foundation. Who would like to present? Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Karen Engelhard, and I am the CFO for the Gulfstream School. And we are here to request, permission to, we are looking to do a lunch program next year for the students at Gulfstream. It would be for both the students, faculty, and staff. And it would be a full hot lunch program where we would bring in a service with a chef, and they would prepare all the meals on site every day and provide a hot meal option for our students. Everyone would be included, so everyone would get the same lunch options every day. And in order to do that, however, we need a way to store the food. And in order to do that, we need to put a cooler unit on the campus. And so here we are asking for permission to put that structure on school property. Just a map of the location. If you've been on the campus, I don't know if you are familiar with it. When you drive through the front gate, if you head back towards the A1A gate, there is a parking lot area where we park our buses. And the storage unit would be in that space next to our current dumpster that is right there as well. So in terms of view from other areas, the view we're looking at here would be like as if you were looking at the neighbor to the south from the proposed storage unit. As you can see, there's a full hedge there. And then typically we have vehicles parked there, so you wouldn't actually be able to see the unit from that neighbor's house. That again, the Oleander Cottage, which is a part of the Gulfstream School, is on the other side of that hedge. You would not be able to see it from that spaces either. That's currently the dumpster that we have, and then the storage unit would basically come out right there and blend in. So you see the surround of the dumpster's white. This would be a white building as well, and would have hedges and landscape around it, which we'll see later. That's just another view. That's our maintenance garage and our field house. And again, that would be just on the other side of the storage unit to the north. And that is the site plan we provided. And then the elevations of the building as is built. And so you'll see it's just a white structure that looks very much like the dumpster enclosure that we currently have. And it's white, which matches the current structures that we have on campus.
Is it metal?
It's not metal. It's not like it doesn't look like a storage container. It looks like a kind of a building. Yeah, it's like got a white facade on it.
It's ugly to me.
It is, yeah. Well,
Just so you
Sure.
get where I'm coming from.
we do have plans to hide it with some foliage, with some landscaping, so it's not so plain.
Right. Is that painted on the actual surface, or is it planned to the?
That's just the architecture.
Right. Okay. Fine. I just wondered if you're being sort of creative and just.
Oh,
Thank
we
you.
could, but we're planning on putting actual foliage on
Right.
there to hide it and kind of have it
Much
blend
better.
in and not be so
Okay.
stark. But that's it without the foliage around it. It's just a white building. It's very simple. The 25 by 25. It will have a cooler in it as well as dry storage as well. And then we could also park some vehicles behind it that would hide it as well, but also create a little bit more space for some vehicles to park. And that's just our landscaping ideas for kind of hiding it and making it prettier. And the nice thing about the location is really you'd have to get on campus and want to park there to really see it. You won't see it from anywhere outside of campus. And that's it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Do you want me to stay here for questions?
Yeah, if you do.
Okay.
If there are any questions from the board members.
How many, are you losing parking spots for this?
We're losing, I think, 4 parking spots, but we have plenty right now to house all of our staff and faculty who bring cars on campus.
Right. And taking Bob's point about it's not the prettiest without dressing up, for the want of a
Yes.
better word. We always say that the foliage that's presented is as it is there, not we're going to plant something that big and in 3 months' time it's going to be that big. So it would be, from my point of view, it's a case of foliage presented has to be as shown.
Okay.
Not it's going to grow into something beautiful.
Okay, so we just buy mature landscaping to put around
Well,
it,
I think you need to present a landscape plan. You ask me.
as opposed to the one that,
Yeah, they're just pictures.
no, I mean, there is a landscape drawn by the architect. There's a
Does
landscape
it
plan.
specify the specimens that
It
you're gonna
does,
put?
yeah, so we have the proposed
I might have
campus
missed that.
and the
Yes.
idea for the hedges and the plants.
Did-
It should
okay.
be in that packet.
Do you see anything in there? That, it doesn't show anything, doesn't spec anything around the actual structure,
Oh, okay.
Carrie.
I thought there was a proposed,
Yeah.
Well,
but we can,
yeah,
we
but-
can specify that. We can sure get that.
There, I mean, I'm just looking at, Renee, you want to go to the page? There's nothing spec'd around the actual 625 square foot box.
Oh, I see what you're saying
That's all.
specifically. Okay, yeah, we can do that. Sure.
We got a great lens around here to protect, a lot of these structures. And would this not be allowed if somebody were to put this at their home? A flat roof. So I'm all for
Yeah,
providing this facility, 100%.
yeah.
I just would like to know, I would like to know if that could be enclosed in like a concrete box structure with a pitched roof on it, tile to match everything else that we have in this town. I know it would add an expense, but it sure would look a lot nicer if there were some architectural elements on the exterior. I mean, that looks to me, I know what that building is. I see that the architects from Wisconsin, this is an industrial building. This is an exterior freezer. You see it in a warehouse.
It's what other
projects.
schools are using
Yeah,
in
no,
their
I
hot
know.
lunch.
I know lots of schools, the Gulfstream School is a very special school. And I don't know if I would, do people want to consider?
Some plants layout.
Yeah, no, but where are they?
Yeah, they need to be shown on the plan.
Yeah, of course they do.
L101.
I just think,
Stuck in the last page.
I'm just one vote. Does anybody want to consider asking to see if they could put a tiled roof on this little building? It's 625 square feet. It's 25 by 25, is that correct?
Yes.
It's not a small building.
Right.
And I may be the only person that's bringing it up, and I know we can't ever bring these things up. We can't discuss it.
Now, my recollection when Rebecca too was here and handling the zoning was that she asked that the minor accessory structure, whatever this unit was, would match the architectural style of the school. I don't know, Mr.
Right.
Dunham, is that right?
No, I think that was
So,
discussed.
so Mr. Doherty, you're
Oh, I didn't know. that, but
You're right,
that-
you're right
This
that-
doesn't match any architectural style. This is a industrial refrigerated box with a flat roof.
Mhm.
And it is unsightly. And I know you're going to cover it up. It's just what I thought. I think a pitched tile roof would be a nice, you could just surround it and it could be inside a concrete block structure. What is that? I mean, it's a small little building, but I'm only one person and that's my,
No, that's fair enough.
for the record, was on the board for 9 years. I was the president of the Gulfstream board. I love the school, big fan. I'm just wanting to preserve what I think. That'll be there for 30, 40, 50 years. Maybe every 20 years you'll replace it because it breaks and falls down, whatever. We have hurricane codes. I assume this meets all sorts of codes.
It
I assume
does.
it would. It's one story, it's small. But, I was thinking, Gulfstream is such a pretty facility and it's a Bermuda and you can put architects and dolly fix that.
I mean, we can certainly enclose it like the dumpster is currently.
Well, that's concrete block on 3 sides. This could be in 4 sides. It could have a little door. It could be made very attractive.
Mhm.
I don't think a lot of money. And it'd be in keeping, I think, with that school and how everything is particular over there. And 100% nice. And as someone who managed the endowment for all those years and I'm well aware of the size of the endowment. And I'm well aware of what people think when they see, and I know exactly where that is. I know exactly where it is. So that's my opinion. I know dumpsters are ugly, but this is just something you're about to put in there. So I don't know. But I do think we need to have a detailed landscape plan. And I'm 100% in support of doing this. I want that to be clear. I'm just unhappy with what's presented right now.
That's a fair point.
And Rebecca said, I wasn't aware that the application said it needed to match the architectural style of the school.
Yes, any kind of a structure like this, according to our codes, are required to meet the architecture of the main
building.
main building.
There you have it.
And is this considered a minor accessory
Accessory.
structure?
Yes.
Bob, then
In that case, if it's considered a minor accessory.
Make it to look like a small little Bermuda. It'll be very nice. Put a couple of 2 fake windows on it, something like that. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I think that's a fair.
That's all I had.
So also for consideration is an amendment to the developers agreement, which is consistent with what I guess the school and Mr. Doherty have said, or maybe it was the chair, that this is going to be here for a long time. So they are requesting to build outside of the building envelope, which was defined in the original developers agreement, to make sure that the impact on neighboring single-family residents was minimal with school activities. This was discussed at the town commission level at a number of meetings. I'm sure that the school is going to be happy when they no longer have to come to board meetings. And there was general support for it, but there was an acknowledgement that you would need to go through the ARPB process, the level 3 process for that structure. There's also a request to exceed the, or adjust the enrollment cap from 250 to 300 students. So that was something that was discussed also at length with the commission, and they gave essentially the green light to amend the developers agreement consistent with allowing the building outside the building envelope and increasing the school cap from 250 to 300 students. The school enrollment currently does exceed the cap. They acknowledged that and said, you know, with COVID and the situation, I think the headmaster's letter is in the materials. You know, they had a lot more accepted than they anticipated, and they let them in. And the impact to the community with I guess, a new traffic pattern is, which I think was probably one of the major reasons for the 250 student cap, was the impact on the community, has been minimized, consistent with what they've said. So that is also part of what we're looking at. And you would make a recommendation on that as well. So it's not just the art, you know, architectural style. It's also the, you know, sort of a big ask to amend the developers agreement, which has been in place for a number of years.
Okay. So can we move?
Yeah, I mean, but that's there. I mean, there's a 7-person impact because we're at 297 now, 293 now,
Yeah.
or whatever it is, seven
short
students less. So I mean, the traffic impact is really a nothing. And they also have worked very hard on getting, you know, one exit through out on A1A and one out on Gulfstream Road. As for the storage unit, is there any consideration for perhaps, you know, obviously they would like to do it as frugally as they could. Is there any feeling for letting them put up the storage unit, see how it sits, and then, I mean, the school has always been an incredibly good neighbor and incredibly accommodating of the town's wishes. And if in fact there is a feeling that it is unsightly, then putting on some kind of a roof, or should we ask?
I don't want to do that.
Yeah, that's probably a more expensive route. That's probably a more expensive route as well.
I mean, but I mean, it's really just a box that, you know, you'd be putting a roof on at a later point in time, and the roof is basically architectural, right? It's not going to be functioning.
It's purely architectural. It's purely designed to make the building look a little bit nicer. And I think from seeing Gray nodding his head, I think a lot of people might even prefer it, might not have been thought about. And I just think it would look,
Granted,
spent 15 years running around there.
It would look better.
But you're saying it is a cost. I understand.
It would increase their costs somewhat substantially, I would think, though. And
we could have the Curtis S. Roach roof, you know, on the plaque.
I mean,
S. Curtis.
I'm directly across the street.
I know.
Yeah.
Maybe I should recuse myself.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Well,
I don't think from where it is.
I don't think we approve things a lot of times here.
It's not even going to impact me. And
Right.
you know,
Right.
Gray and myself are the two closest and most observant neighbors.
We always say too that it's not about what you can see, it's about everything.
Yeah, we've got to, we do have to take the application in its totality. I think the idea of saying, well, we'll give you some, we'll take this right way, we'll give you some rope, and if that doesn't work, we'll give you some more. I think we generally don't do that with anybody else in terms of, because we just don't. It's a case of, it then becomes qualitative, well, it looks good or not. What we're talking about here, if I fully understand it, is it's a minor accessory. It has to meet the blend in with the architectural design of the existing building, and that's what I think we should consider. And Bob, that's the route you're going down, yeah?
That is the route I'm going down, yeah. And by the way, if you come back and you tell me it's Bobby, it's $600,000 to do what you're, we're not going to do that. I get it, but it's not going to cost that much money. I know what this is,
Mhm.
you know. It's trusses with white tile on top surrounded by something to not make it look like an exterior refrigerator sitting on a slab.
Yep.
We understand, we're happy to work.
That's,
Yeah,
thank you.
correct.
We will work.
So moving forward, we have two applications in front of us to consider. Can we move forward with the recommending making a motion? Well, we obviously make a motion for both the points we have to consider, but can we treat them differently, or do they both have to be?
I mean, I think that would be, you know, you'd be requiring the school then to come to a number of different meetings for different parts of the application. I think it'd be easier. I think what they're largely waiting on is approval for the structure, right? So getting the amendment to the development agreement is largely irrelevant without that construction piece.
Okay. In that case, do we have a?
Yeah, I'll make a motion
consensus
for
for a
the,
time certain? Yep.
I'll make the first motion.
Yeah. Yep.
Yep. So I'd like to make a motion to recommend approval of the third amendment to the
No.
developers.
No, Bob,
No, excuse me.
We're gonna do both together because, yeah, it's either or.
Well, we can't do both together.
You can, you could, if you're going to defer, you would defer the application and
Totality.
in totality to a time certain.
Yeah.
With instruction to provide, you know, whatever additional materials that you want.
So it takes your point, but because that's a major.
Okay, then we're gonna have to
defer
this. I make a motion to defer this application to the next meeting.
to a time certain, because you may not be ready for the next meeting. It's up to you, but we say a time certain, and then
Is it your intent to get this all done this summer, I presume? Okay,
Yeah, we'd like to get it done this summer.
Of course.
So we can open on the open.
absolutely.
Yep. Yep.
So it's April. So if we get an approval in May, you'll be back here. Certainly, this is a very easy for a local architect to come up with this and put it on a piece of paper for you. And we'll meet in May and call me up and I'll come take a look at it or something if you think that's helpful. And we'll approve it in May.
It'll be considered in May.
Consider it. I'll approve it in May. At least you have my vote.
Sorry, Bob.
Yeah.
Sure, cards there.
So are we making, I'd like to make a motion to defer this application till the next meeting in May.
Can I have a second? Second that. Renee?
Mr. Roach,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Canfield,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Doherty,
Yes.
Chairman Murphy.
Yes. Thank you for the application. And with that, we now move on to the second application presented to us this morning. And we would like, welcome back. Welcome back, Jacob. Okay. Renee, is Austin logged on?
I'm trying to get him in. I sent him a request. He's not answering. So we'll see.
Okay.
I mean, he's on, but he may not be at his computer.
Yeah. Let me get started.
You might as well, because
Okay,
he has to answer to get on.
Certainly.
Okay.
Good morning, board members and town staff. My name is Jacob LaPera with LaParadise Building Development, the representative for the owners of 1200 North Ocean Boulevard. Today, we are presenting our application for the approval of a multi-use sports court. The court meets all criteria of Code Section 66-368 and will feature significant sound mitigation and aesthetic treatments. Per the code, the court meets all setback requirements. There will be no lights, thus no dawn, dusk, or nighttime play, and the court will not be visible to any neighbor. The court has been designated as a multi-use sports court to more accurately illustrate the true desired intentions for use. Not available? Okay. Austin's planning to join us to give an opening statement. So when he's able to join, we'll let him speak. This application would not be before the board unless we passionately believe this request is being made in good faith, is an allowable property improvement conforming to all town codes, and in no way will interfere unduly with the enjoyment of property rights by the adjacent property owners. The few public record oppositions are based on circumstantial opinion and speculation related to only one particular activity. This is most likely due to the negative perception of multiple courts with intensive use, conditions that do not apply to our application. There's even an unsubstantiated complaint of wildlife disturbance. Our application and the information in front of you presents objective database analysis to address the specific site and adjacent property conditions. The math validates we will surpass acceptable mitigation of noise concerns, again for the very limited occurrences of daytime play. So if we can look at the location diagram, I can start giving a review. Get
What?
the location diagram.
I don't have anything.
Okay. Do you guys have the location diagram?
We do.
Board members?
It was in our packet.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's in our packet.
It's in our packet.
I'm sorry. I apologize. I
Is it
thought
in
Paul submitted it. It's not.
No, he didn't send me
Okay.
anything.
Okay. The location diagram has the proposed court at the center of the diameter rings. The subject property is the fourth largest residential parcel in Gulfstream and inherently features significant distance buffering from the adjacent neighbors. This is one of the few properties in the town that would actually accommodate a court of this nature. The two closest adjacent neighbors to the south, the Bartons and the Smiths, are in support of the court and its intended use. Some key distances to point out to the adjacent concerned neighbors. To the northwest, you have the Morris residence, which they have stated to be 165 feet to the nearest building. The Hillman residence, 400 feet to the nearest property corner, and the Martin residence, 600 feet to the nearest property corner.
Oh, there he is.
Well, it was an impressive entrance. Yeah.
At least he's trying to get on.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I've been on the video and can see you and was unmuted, but you couldn't hear me, so I called in on my phone. So,
Well, you have to accept the webcam request. Once you accept that, then we'll be able to see you.
okay, yeah, I thought I did because I could see you and I was unmuted. Let me try to go to the email again and do that.
Well, are you on a camera?
Yeah, I could see you, I could hear everybody, but you couldn't hear me even when I was unmuted.
All right, well, at least we can hear you. We don't have to see you if we can hear you.
And Renee, we do have to open this
Okay.
to an oath.
And I need you to swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Very well. How do you want to go with this, Jacob?
Do you want Mr. LaPera to finish, or would you like to make a
Yes,
statement?
if he could go ahead with his presentation and I'll chime in whenever he wants me to.
Certainly. The case study that I've included with the cited sources while we built this presentation from a Wall Street Journal article and a acoustic engineering study stated 150 feet would be a sufficient buffering distance in an open space to adjacent buildings. This case study was done in opposition of a court. We have already surpassed this distance, not even taking into account our landscape buffers. The volume approximation chart on the location diagram is based on a few key data and reference points I'd like to define. You have your distance rings at 100, 200, and 350 feet radiuses. The control distance we used for our decibels was 100 feet. There are 3 tennis courts and 1 basketball court in the town, and they are spaced a maximum of 30 feet from adjacent properties, 2 of which are actually non-conforming at less than 5 feet from adjacent properties. The decibel levels in the volume approximation chart are the metric used to quantify loudness. On the left side, you have no sound abatement measures. On the right side, you have sound abatement measures. These decibel readings are based on the complaints of a particular sport that is being proposed. These items or these data points do not factor in landscape buffers or the buildings. So to give you some reference points on what decibels mean, since they're just numbers in a chart right now, 30 decibels is a whisper. 45 decibels is ambient neighborhood noise. 55 decibels is the nationally recognized level of acceptable exterior noise. 80 to 85 decibels is gas-powered lawn equipment. These data points were pulled from the CDC and the EPA websites. It's important to note that decibel levels are measured on an exponential scale. So a reduction of 10 decibels is actually a substantial amount and is half the perceived loudness to the human ear. The chart identifies on the left and the right-hand columns that for every doubling of distance, sound attenuation is 6 decibels on average, meaning the sound is decreasing 6 decibels for every doubling of distance. To further support our case, we did not just cherry pick the most convenient information to build this chart or study. We completed a conservative extrapolation with a decibel control at 100 feet rather than a 50 or 65 foot distance that was presented in a couple of case studies we reviewed. The lowest decibel case would actually provide an additional quarter reduction of perceived loudness. As stated and as shown in the location diagram and the landscape plan that is later in the packet, the court will feature significant sound abatement solutions. The abatement figures are presented on the right-hand column of the chart. The installation of a sound abatement fence alone will provide a 10 decibel reduction, but likely even higher. Again, this is half the perceived loudness to the human ear. The acoustic splatter from the 40-foot deep landscape buffer from the court edge to the north property line will compound this reduction, providing decibel levels that objectively cannot be perceived as a nuisance outside of the property. I'd like to introduce Mr. Austin Musselman to give a couple comments, and then we will proceed with introducing the landscape architects to go over the proposed landscape material.
Thank you. Mr. Musselman.
Okay. Hello. Thank you to the board and everyone interested in this project, neighbors showing up. I apologize. I'm not able to join on the web video, but for my technological shortcomings. So, thank you for your time. My wife, Janie, and I are very excited about this project. We have 5 kids, 2 8-year-old twins that attend Gulfstream School half the year. We are seasonal. We live in Kentucky the rest of the year. Had a long history of coming to Gulfstream and Delray. My grandparents started coming down there in the 30s, They founded the Bath and Tennis Club. My grandfather's best friend was Harold Johnson, who built Lemon Hill. Together they built the canal on their property lines that exist there today. You know, my family's always had a history of preservation, historical preservation and conservation in the area. My grandmother was one of the people that protected the George Bush Bridge from being resized and made it a historic structure. And they too have, my family, that many still live in the area, have set up a lot of nature preserves in the area to continue to preserve and protect the beauty of Gulfstream. I want to honor this legacy with this property, and I've assembled a team who I've worked with on other projects who are very historically sensitive, and we intend to restore the property as much as we can, taking those attributes into account. And we want to enhance the privacy and landscaping to, you know, not only provide privacy for ourselves, but for our neighbors. And as far as the court is concerned, neither my wife and I are really avid racket players. We probably play very seldomly, if at all. But just the thought of having a space where my children could play on a surface, you know, with their friends, or play games, or you know, have birthday parties, whatever. It's just the idea of using this this empty space that's in the property for this use was appealing to us. And so we have gone above and beyond to try to ensure that the noise or visual implications about this are going to be mitigated. So that's why we are here today to present our plans, and thank you for your considerations. And I'm here for any questions that anyone may have.
Thank you, Mr. Musselman. Jacob.
Let me introduce Landscape Architects Environment Design Group.
Good morning, Dustin Mizell, Environment Design Group in Palm Beach, here with Erica Gottsagen from my office as well. We were here before. You previously went through the landscape plan and it was well received, so thank you again for the opportunity to be here. Quickly, just talking about some of the things. I won't go over, repeat anything Jacob said, but relative to the landscaping, in addition to the dense buffer, which I'll talk about for a moment, you know, we do have that acoustical fencing. Jacob referenced, you know, 10 decibels. I mean, according to manufacturers, he can even go up to 20 to 28 decibel reduction, which is fantastic. So in addition to this dense buffer we will have this acoustical fence in there, which is an absorbent. It attracts the noise. I think that's great. It's nestled into the landscape. It's not visible. And one thing about landscape, as far as mitigation and noise, it's very difficult to really quantify decibel reductions. People think, oh, if you put up a 50-foot hedge, that'll make a difference. It's not the height, it's the width. But you know, they can't fully quantify it because every species is different, every location is different. But the one consensus relative to landscape planting being a mitigation of noise is the wider it is, the better it is. It's not really about the height. So we've got a wonderful dense buffer, you know, on the west side that just naturally flows into the preserve. The buffer on the north is very extensive, and we're putting dense, thick vegetation in there. So again, it's not the height, it's the density. It hits a wall, it hits a second layer, it hits a third layer, and eventually as it gets to these layers, it hits the acoustical fence. So we think that we've done a good job, if not a great job, of really being sensitive. I think it'll be more than sufficient. And Erica's going to walk you through real quick some of the plants that we've selected. But thank you again for your time this morning. We're here to answer questions after. Should be real brief.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So quickly, just to reiterate what Dustin and Jacob said about the buffer, we have several layers of buffer, including the sound barrier. We're going to do some shade-tolerant native wild coffee, which is a type of hedge, and clusia. We have an additional layer of the existing tree buffer, obviously, along Hidden Harbor Drive. And we're also extending the Eureka hedge, which is coming from west. We're going to extend it towards the east. So that will really create this tall and wide barrier. And in front of that, just along Hidden Harbor Drive, we will also have an additional hedge with wild coffee. So I think, and then in front of the court, we have some sea grape hedges, we have some green cocoa plum, we have additional trees, silver buttonwood and green buttonwood. And yeah, I think that's it.
Right. Thank you for that.
Yes, very welcome.
In terms of board members, do we want to put our questions in now, or do we want to ask for public comment? Because we always take account of the neighbours. And my usual question is, has there been any feedback from neighbours?
Yes, there has been. You got a lot of them by
We have.
email, and I think there were a couple that I put on the dais
Yep.
that we got as well in support. So there were negative and there were positive.
Yeah, so I think we should hear the neighbour input, and then we'll see if we can address those questions, if they generate any questions for
Certainly.
the presentation team. Okay, so with that, is there anyone in the public forum who would like to speak on this matter?
Good morning, I'm Joshua Morris. We live at 24 South Hidden Harbor Drive, and our master bedroom is approximately 165 feet from this proposed court. Since we can't see any drawings, I would like to have a detailed description of this sound fence description, please. I can't visualize.
Certainly, the landscape plan has an image of the proposed sound buffering material that was included in the public records for this meeting. It is essentially a 1/8-inch thick mass-loaded vinyl available in multiple colors and will be attached to a aluminum fence around the court.
6 feet.
6 feet.
6
We
feet.
proposed 6 feet. We are able to go up to 8 feet if necessary. We were trying to be consistent with the code, not realizing that 8 foot would be acceptable on the property line.
It says H sound barrier. What does the H stand for? 6 foot H?
Height, yes. It's important to note too, the objective of this fence is for it not to be visible.
Yeah.
It will be buried in landscaping.
Yep. Does that address your concern? Sorry, Mrs. Morris, but we have to come back if you have any comments.
Go ahead and finish.
That's, you've addressed the point of the.
That's all I have to
barrier.
offer. I mean, it's a very thin panel made of a specified material that has been designed and has a patent for sound abatement.
Okay, thank you, Jacob.
Yes.
I just had a question. You said it's a
Certainly.
very thin panel. I mean,
Yes.
how thick is this? I mean, I don't think
It's an 1/8 thick,
An 1/8 of an inch.
1/8 of an inch. I provided the product sheet to Renee for the record.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mrs. Morris.
I understand potentially that there's basketballs being proposed to be played on this court, and will there be basketball nets?
There will potentially be a removable basketball hoop. The decibels of basketball are excuse me, 50 decibels.
And you said anything below 55 decibels is
Yes.
acceptable.
55 decibels is the stated and nationally recognized level of acceptable exterior noise.
Thank you. Are there any other comments from the public at this point?
My name is Joe Morris, across the street. I just want you all to know we object to this, that's all.
Thank you. So.
Just for my reference again,
Certainly.
what is the surface made out of?
Of the court, it's a hard surface court,
Concrete?
asphalt. Consistent with all hard sport court, tennis courts.
Okay, thank you. Open to the board.
Well, I have a question. So that essentially, if you're, let's say, playing basketball, if my son plays basketball on our driveway,
Yes,
kind of the same noise factor we're talking about, as it would be on the sport court. The same, you know.
it's a
Surface.
comparable decibel level of basketball on a hard surface. Yes.
So I think there's, sorry, Curtis.
I have an issue with the invasion, not invasion, but the noise that's going to be going into the nature preserve and the responses from some of the neighbors and the necessity for the court. I mean, I don't see the necessity, and I think it's going to be obtrusive to the neighbors. And you had mentioned the unsubstantiated, letters from people. Well, your decibel readings and everything. We have had this same discussion with regard to the little clubs positioning of pickleball courts, rather than what you are now calling a multi-use sports court, which in the last application was a pickleball court, and which if you look at the lines on it, it's a pickleball court. But, and I don't care what you call it, I care more about the noise and the intrusion on the neighbors. And I just don't see the necessity.
Well, I think we did a successful job of demonstrating that the noise will not be audible outside the property. Additionally, with respect to the comments on the nature preserve, if the neighbors along Hidden Harbor were that concerned about disturbance to the wildlife, they would not be using gas-powered lawn equipment that is 4x the perceived loudness.
Well,
so thanks, Curtis.
I hear you, and I hear your argument. But
I think it's,
I find it difficult to, when we went through the renovation of the property, which, I think is a wonderful renovation.
Thank
And
you.
I think the Musselmans are doing a great job of reconstructing what had been there. We went to particular exclusion of exactly this court. And now at this meeting, we're bringing it back again. And
Correct. I mean, we volunteered to table it to do further studies and
Right.
analysis to show you that it's not a concern. I mean, we're not asking for an exemption, a variance. This is an allowable use permitted by the code.
I can see that.
And I think we've successfully addressed, the concerns. We base our statements and our position on math and physics. I can't change someone's mind if they don't understand that it's not going to be a concern.
Okay.
But my feeling is if any property could handle this, it's this property. And this is a family living in this house, and I think you've shown me at least that noise isn't going to be a factor. I mean, my son plays basketball and my neighbor's right there. And, it's hard to say, oh, the kids shouldn't be outside and make any noise. And, this is life and they want to enjoy their home. And if it's not going to be anything outrageously loud, which doesn't seem like it will be, I think you should be able to enjoy your home.
And I would add, it's up for the owners to decide if this is something that they need on their property. And we're here to look and see if it meets the requirements that are outlined in the code book. And as far as I'm concerned, I think they do. And with the information you provided, I think it's hard to really push back too hard on this from my standpoint. So I think your point about the lawn equipment and any boats that go by as well are far more intrusive than this court would do. So I think that's also a consideration.
Okay.
I really grapple with this decision. I think we all are. The neighbors' considerations are very important in this town. And I guess there was a Mr. Martin that was against it too, along with the Morris family. And we went through a tremendous amount of effort with the Little Club, the great pickleball debate. I mean, several meetings, and eventually it got turned down and moved 600 or 800 feet away. So it's a very I agree with Georgette. If any property could handle it, this would be a nice one. I hate to deny. I mean, if they have the right to put this, I do. I know we're grappling with maybe even changing the code and not allowing these, but we haven't done that yet. That's how much this issue is confronting these bodies.
I do think it's important to note that the Little Club was an active court all day long.
Yep.
And so I don't think we can compare the two in this situation.
Was it two courts? Whatever.
Yeah.
But if you want to get into the whole thing, they went through an incredible amount. They changed the paddles, they changed the ball, they changed the surface. They did a lot of weird things that it wasn't even pickleball at the end of the day. But
If you don't mind, just in response to Ms. Smith's comments, who kind of, generated what really is our vision, that, it is allowable currently. If there is a property in the town that can handle it, it is this property. I don't think you'll ever see another application that would have the location we have, the density of the buffer, the separation between neighbors. And if this could be approved, I don't think you could ever approve any multi-course anywhere. And keep in mind, and I know everyone's hung up on the pickleball, as Mr. Musselman mentioned, they have a young family. I mean, that's a small component of this. The basketball, just having fun, a place to play, and they're here seasonal. There's no lights. They would not be used past dusk. And so by the time you take how long they're actually here, how much you actually use that versus other uses, I think you just start chipping away at the concerns. At the end of the day, if it is allowable and this doesn't get approved, I don't think you can approve a multi-use or anything for a young family anywhere in this town, because this is the property that could accommodate it. And I think we've done everything we can, and I appreciate just the consideration. And I do hear the neighbors' concerns, and I know our client is very, sensitive to that. And if we didn't feel we did everything we could, we wouldn't be here today. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, I see that, and I understand that the property can hold this kind of a situation, but by your positioning, you're putting it out on the far end of the property too, closer to the neighbor than to the primary residence.
That's because it's the only flat area on the property that would accommodate this.
Things can be flattened, I just don't see the necessity for it myself, and I feel opposed.
Right. I think, Mrs. Morris. Sorry, Mrs. Morris, it's just so it's on the record.
I'm a little concerned about this application because it was presented very, very specifically as a pickleball court. The whole meeting was a pickleball court. And all of a sudden, it's not. So was pickleball the passion or not?
Right.
And now we've got how many different sports? Volleyball, basketball, badminton, tennis, pickleball, street hockey, you name it.
Yeah. So to address that point, thank you. We addressed in the meeting minutes of March that we said pickleball, you voluntarily withdrew it.
Correct.
And we asked you to represent. It's not just the semantics of it, it's the fact that you tried to align with the code. And so it's not just a semantic term. It's the fact that you addressed the code, met with staff, and we asked you to reapply, and that's what you've done.
Correct.
I think the application falls into two parts. Quantitative, it's no doubt you've met the code, you go through everything, you've made that very clear, the maths and the physics. The couple of points you said about limited occurrences, 5 children seem to have an awful lot of energy, right? So I'm not sure what limited occurrences mean. The other thing is, in terms of multi-sports, it's multi-sports. I have to declare I'm one of those people who live next door to a tennis court. There were people playing basketball endlessly. The buffering wasn't there, but in terms of the impact on my life, my wife's life, we had to call the police because it was so intrusive. Now, that's the bad news. The good news is there was no buffering, there was no attempt, and this was built in 1975, the house. So, I know things have moved on, the technology, the maths and the physics you're referring to. So that's the quantitative side in many ways. The qualitative side is what we have to address, which is how we feel, the concerns of the neighbours. And Renee, as you said, we have for, we have against from both sides. I think concerns are obviously genuine. People wouldn't be here and taken this amount of trouble if they weren't genuine concerns. The fact that they don't, unless they understand the physics or need to know the physics, people are concerned. And so I think that's something that we have to take into account. However, well, no, not as a however. Technically, you've met the criteria for a multi-purpose sports area. The necessity part, I can absolutely see, Curtis, because it's a choice. It's a choice by Mr. and Mrs. Musselman. I think we will. It's always going to be contentious because of the qualitative part of this. People are worried.
And I understand those concerns, which is why we went through great efforts to show that, with the sound buffering and the math, that those concerns can be mitigated. Because that seems to be the most significant concern of this application. So, the Musselmans would like to be good neighbors and take care of that concern.
Yeah, and it's evident. The mitigation you've shown us, the measures, they're substantial, absolutely substantial. As a board, we have to consider the two things. Does it meet our code? Does it tick every box there? And also, how do we weigh up the fors and the pros of the neighbours? And this is the next part, should, and I'm not assuming, should it move forward, the police were probably a little annoyed, not annoyed, but they thought, oh no, it's the Murphys again because the noise is next door. It's the ongoing management of it from the town's point of view. Should it, this is great in theory, and your numbers and the amount of detail and work you've done here is, considerable. But it's just, if the theory doesn't match the practice, where do we go from there? That's one of our issues.
I mean, we talked a little bit about this during the Little Clubs pickleball application, and that we really don't want to spend town resources in responding to nuisance complaints from something that we could have nipped in the bud before it was approved. And that was certainly the case with the location of the pickleball courts in their first iteration. So just food for thought.
And I think part of that discussion was the idea that perhaps, the little club would have to self
manage
that. But that's a club. So it's not an individual resident, but those kinds of discussions were had.
Yeah. And I can hopefully verbalize it even better in the code 66-368. Point A, no tennis court should be located. Okay, tennis court, for that read multi-purpose sport. You check the boxes technically. Should be located, designed, operated or maintained so as to interfere unduly with the enjoyment of the property rights by the owners of properties adjoining the tennis court. That's I think the only real thing we have to consider in terms of because technically you check all the boxes. There's no doubt here. That I think is our challenge. Yeah. And
we do support a use agreement. I've reviewed the Little Club's use agreement, and if needed, I'm aware the town doesn't really have an appetite for using decibel readers and spending resources to enforce that. But to show our level of commitment, we can put on the record a use agreement for decibel levels to show you how confident we are that the noise is not going to be an issue.
Is that enforceable from a town's point of view? Should we put it in place?
We don't have anybody that's trained to use that kind of equipment at this point in time. If that's what it's going to be based on, I mean, we would need to train someone to be able to do that.
Have you met individually outside of this room with the people that are opposed, maybe to demonstrate and show some of this product in an effort to, if you will, gain some interest, from their side?
I had a conversation with Mr. Hillman this week on the phone. He was out of town, and I tried to explain these.
Mr. Hillman?
Yes.
Okay. I see Tom Smith, Tom Barton, both were fine. The Morris family and the Martin family were no. I'm missing Mr. Hillman.
Hillman is located next to the empty lot on the north side of Hidden Harbor Drive, on the east side.
Okay. Understood. Okay. And Mr. Hillman was a no?
Correct.
He was on his way to lunch, and I had 5 minutes to
Okay.
give him my spiel, and I don't think he fully understood.
Okay.
My point. It's important to reiterate that at a certain distance, the noise is inaudible, regardless.
Absolutely.
Even if you had no sound abatement with an open space, you start layering in the massive amount of vegetation in the area, the buildings, the landscape buffer alone that is on our property, the sound abatement fence, the limited play, the noise is not going to be an issue and disturb the neighbors.
So you haven't met with any of the neighbors?
Sorry,
You have
simply
not.
I have not. I had a phone call.
Mrs. Morris.
The Hellmans moved in, I think, a year and a half ago. They've been delightful, lovely neighbors. We've become nice friends. They're really good people. I spoke at length to Mr. Hellman yesterday. He called me and told me about the conversation that he had with you, and he's an adamant no.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
If this genie is let out of the bottle, and I'm sorry for the analogy there.
Again, at 400 feet to the closest property corner, regardless of the sound abatement, the sound would not be audible.
That's Hillman's property?
Correct.
Yeah. 400 feet.
Yeah, I see it.
Yeah.
That's to the nearest property corner.
Yeah.
So not being audible, does that mean that it's not perceived to be heard?
Correct.
It's just background noise as you've described before.
Yes. You would hear the ambient.
In your research, I mean, you talk about perceived noise.
Correct.
So that means if it's inaudible, it's not perceived. to be
Correct.
noise.
Can we note that if they still have 5 kids that are going to be playing on this property, so whether that court's there or not, they're going to be playing? I mean,
Right.
I'm kind of looking at this, the quantitative side kind of seems to address the qualitative side as well, in that they provided the data. Being neutral in this, when you provide data about decibel levels and the landscape plan and all that, it's hard from my standpoint anyway, to really disagree with anything we've heard. I don't have the emotion of living near the property, but sitting up here looking at the data, it's hard to push back that hard.
I'd like to mention too, 3 of the Musselman children are high school and college age. 2 of our at Gulfstream School.
Okay, thank you.
And I agree with you on the playing, but maybe outside playing anyway. I hear the Gulfstream school kids all day long, but it's background noise and it's actually a little joyful. to hear. It's not-
And you've got to live.
And I did obviously have personal conversations with the Bartons and the Smiths.
I saw that.
And they are the closest adjacent neighbors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw that.
Yeah. And they are potentially would definitely be the most impacted.
They would be the most impacted because the buffering is to the north mostly. There will be buffering to the south and to the west. But as good neighbors, we wanted to ensure that they were okay with the proposed court. And they were willing to put on record their support.
Yep, and they have. And, you know, from this back to point A, they don't feel their property rights or their enjoyments will be impacted. And they, if you like, the nearest, not beneficiaries, that's the wrong word, the nearest,
Impacted.
Impacted, yeah, that's what I'm looking for. So if the nearest impacted are for it, obviously that has to be taken into account as well in terms of.
Jacob,
Yes, sir.
I don't want to be, argumentative here, but and you have all these decibel readings and things like that, but I have a property which I go to in the summer that is probably 600 yards away from pickleball courts on in a park. I, take my dogs there to walk them. And when I'm out walking them 600 yards away, I can distinctly hear the click, click of the ball hitting rackets and bouncing off of the court. So, I mean, decibel level readings are, to my mind, a somewhat inexact science. And that's why I find it I'm looking at it more as a non-necessity, something that isn't instrumental to the property itself. And so why make the imposition on neighbors? I'm
First and foremost,
not terribly opposed to it, but I'm
Understood.
opposed to it only from the imposition on neighbors and the fact of personal experience,
Understood. I can't speak to the specific conditions of your park. And again, that is one activity that continues to come up. That is not the primary intention of the court. As I mentioned in my opening statements, we don't feel that this is going to be impactful to the neighbors or have any implications, which is why we are so persistent on the request. I think deeming it a necessity is or not is subjective and based up to the property owner.
It is. It is.
Yep. So I think we've taken this inside out, upside down, reviewed it.
We can put it to a motion and see how it gets voted if.
Yep. Before we when we always go to motions, we aim to consider everything. And I think we have drilled down into this as far as we possibly can in taking account of whatever motion, whatever decision we come with. We have considered your point, the input of the neighbors, and that's what we're here for, is to make that decision.
Whichever way it goes, it's going to, we are a reviewing committee. We are not we are not the ultimate arbiters on this issue.
This is a level 2 application, so this is the final stop.
This would be
the final vote?
Yes, sir.
And also, from what I understand, normally this would be a level 1, but because we asked it to come back from our board in the previous meeting.
But that's correct. Normally this would just be processed as a level 1, but because it was part of a larger application and the board had already seen it and there were some resident concerns, we wanted to make sure that they had the opportunity to see everything during a public hearing and give the applicant the opportunity to essentially meet the burden that it would not cause a nuisance or whatever the language is in the code. It's not nuisance, but an undue burden to neighboring properties, I believe it is.
I'll make a motion.
sorry, Rob, to interrupt. Can I, if we go down the route, if we share any motion, can we take account of the point that Jacob made about the 8-foot fence as well? Because it's presented as 6 foot in the presentation.
Certainly. I'd like to make a motion to approve a level 2 architectural site plan review to permit the construction of a multi-use sport court, permitted they install an 8-foot fence as opposed to the 6 foot on the plans.
And that would be on the west property line.
And the north.
Well, the north property line, I believe the maximum height is 6 feet. So if, I mean, if, you know, the Morrises wanted an 8-foot tall and you wanted to grant that, you know. Yes, ma'am, that's under our zoning code. It's a maximum height for fences in between the minor accessory setback and the street. So, you know, if you wanted it to be 8 feet tall with, you know, the thinking that it would reduce the sound more, sounds like the board would be acceptable to that. If you have any other conditions that you would want to impose, you know, feel free to, you know, provide that.
Very well, thanks. Rob.
So reread.
So if you wanted, I'm just saying it's prohibited under the zoning code, but if you want to condition the approval on exceeding that with no objection from anyone that's here, that's fine.
Okay. Shall I reread the motion, including that? I mean, because
You're
we
on.
can just add it. So I'd like to make a motion to approve level 2 architectural site plan review to permit the construction of a multi-use sport court and an 8-foot fence on the north side of the property, provided neighbors allow the fence.
I think they were okay to surround, I don't know, Mr. LaPierre,
Yes.
what are we talking about on the fence? Is it on the north? Is
Is
it?
it north or west? I forget.
It's north and west.
North and west, okay.
It's the
Yes.
northwest.
We didn't feel it was necessary to abate the sound emitting onto our property.
Basically, I don't think the owners are concerned about the noise coming your way, whatever noise is generated.
Correct.
And that's the same thing for the south side?
Correct.
And the south side residents have provided support, so.
And there'll be landscape
Tom
buffers.
Smith, yeah, Tom Smith and yeah, Mr. and Mrs. Barton have gone for it.
Okay.
You don't need to reread, I got
Okay,
it.
thank you.
But we need a second.
A second.
Could I have a vote, please?
Mr. Roach,
I'm opposed.
Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Canfield,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Doherty,
No.
Chairman Murphy.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. I apologize again about the not having the presentation on the screen. Miscommunication.
Well, thank you. Back of my car. You may, and I have to make one call. Open the back door of my car to the back. Okay.
Is it possible that you send these neighbors short message telling them that they should start thinking about that payment thing? Or is it not how you do it?
We don't do it. We do it at the meeting. Yeah. We do the town meeting. Yeah. Yeah. I'll talk to you about it afterwards.
All right.
Guys, can I ask for a 2-minute recess? Renee, I'd like to ask for a 2-minute recess, please. I've got quite an important call I
Go
just
ahead.
have to take. Excuse me.
That's great, because I have to get this next presentation. Do you want to run it?
Sure. Ellie, do you want me to run it or would you like, does it matter? Run the PowerPoint, put the slides. I'll run it.
No worries. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, I do it myself.
You want me to?
No, no.
Okay. Okay. Are we vaguely ready?
Just waiting on Trey.
Excuse me.
We're ready when you
I'm
are.
sorry, Renee. I wasn't here. I'd like to reconvene this meeting. We're now ready to hear the third application of the morning submitted by Carlos.
Renee, I don't know if everyone was here when you swore them in, so if you just swear in anyone who wasn't sworn earlier.
Thank you.
Raise your right hand. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth to help you God.
I do.
Thank you.
Hi, good morning. Ellie Zacharias, name is Backman, 14 Southeast 4th Street in Boca Raton. I think it's still morning. It's already been a long day. Next slide, please. So we're here this morning to discuss potential expansion of a lanai area and a laundry room on the existing residence. This slide here shows you the location of the residence as well as the multifamily 4-story development to the north. To the south, there exists a single family home. As you can see, both the north property and the south property extend much further than the subject property that we're here to discuss today. The line, sorry. The north-south line on the west side is a setback line, and the north-south red line on the east side is actually the CCCL, which is also technically the property line here in the town of Gulfstream. Next slide, please. It's weird to look this way, I'm sorry. Okay, so this is looking north, from the north to the south. The property closest to us is actually the subject property. The property to the south and the back of the screen is the existing single family home that is just south of us. Again, as you can see from this view, it's taken, I believe, from the second floor of the multifamily development to our north. But the point of this slide is to show how further the single family property to the south extends eastward, waterward. Also, their property is completely enclosed, air-conditioned, habitable space. And what we're proposing here is actually open air lanai. Next slide, please. Again, same view on the left side, but this is taken from the 4th floor of the multifamily property to the north. On the right side of your screen, you'll see facing north, the subject property looking at the 4-story development. The point of this, again, is to kind of show the privacy that's being requested here from the 4th floor, the 4-story multifamily development, excuse me. Next slide, please. Again, just to orient you as to the location of this particular property. I'm going to hand it over to Carlos in just a minute to discuss the actual architecture and the design. But I just wanted to point out that this is a very unique parcel of property where you have a single family home abutting a 4-story multifamily development. This is not occurring generally in the town of Gulfstream. So this is actually very unique and specially situated. Next slide, please. Okay, and with that, I'm going to hand it over to Carlos and I'll come back up. The whole team is here as well to answer any questions you all may have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Carlos Linares. I'm with Randall Soft Architects. It's been a while. I haven't seen you guys in a while. So this site plan illustrates the red line being the coastal control line at this property. We've met with staff on several occasions on trying to find a way to get the privacy that our client is seeking in his backyard. So we understand that there is a special exception to where we could extend to the rear and to the side of the property. So this is one of the items that we're here to present today, to be able to have the special exception of the rear and the north setback to 10 feet to be able to provide the privacy that actually the north and this property is seeking. Believe it or not, the neighbors to the north are also proposing, and they like this what we're trying to do to have the privacy between the two. So
Can we leave the, sorry, let's finish the presentation, please.
Extending the lanai towards the back is what, as you saw the previous photos, will definitely give us that privacy. Previously, we were here and we were approved for a trellis structure behind the lanai, and that was approved by the town of Gulfstream. If we could go to the next slide, please.
A trellis was approved, you were telling me?
Yes. There was a trellis structure, a pergola that was going to be open. Obviously, this was prior to us understanding that we did have a special exception that we may be able to request. And obviously, the extension of the lanai, we feel that it enhances the architecture rather than a garden feature. It gives you the privacy because obviously it becomes a roof structure rather than a transparent structure. So it doesn't really provide that privacy that we definitely need. So instead of trying to build a pergola that really doesn't do what we're trying to do here, what we're asking for is the extension of the lanai, which is in keep with the style of the architecture. Obviously, we have columns and the arches there, so we are trying to maintain the essence of the architecture still. If we could go to the next slide, please. This is the floor plan on what we are proposing. So we are proposing the lanai to extend towards the rear in order for us to be able to have that continuous roof. We will mimic the colonnade architecture that we currently have for the house. So it would appear as if this was the original intention of the house from the very start. In doing so, we're also providing a summer kitchen underneath this lanai. This summer kitchen will also comply with the 10-foot setback, which obviously we're asking not only for the rear, but also for the north side. The extension of the lanai obviously request a special exception for the setback. We are also asking for a special exception on the 300 square feet FAR.
Variance.
Well, no, we're gonna get to the variance in a little bit, but we're asking for a special exception to increase the 300 square feet FAR, which I believe is under, can we go to the next slide? I think the next slide has it. Okay, this is perfect. So one is obviously, we already discussed the 10 feet side and rear special exception setback, because we are abutting a multifamily structure. Secondly, we're asking for a special exception per section 70-72B to have unenclosed structure increase beyond the permissible FAR. So we are asking for that as well. That alone does not give us still the square footage for the extension of the lanai. So in addition to it, we're asking for 599 increase. Out of the 599, we're obviously asking for the special exception of the 300. So technically the variance will be 299 square feet. If that's the way that we're presenting the project. In doing so, the current house does not have a laundry. This is something that we wanted to discuss with you guys. Obviously, we wanted to have a laundry extension, also complying with the 10-foot reduction onto the north side of the property. And I believe the laundry is about 100 square feet is what we're proposing for the laundry to be. If you could go to the next slide, please. This is currently the home, and where we are asking for the extension of the lanai is here. We're going to maintain the same colonnade and arches that complement the architecture. So we're not reinventing anything. We're just asking for the extension of that. We'll go to the next one, please. This is the rear. The rear of the house obviously is going to maintain the 3 arches that are currently there. Obviously, it's just going to be pushed towards the east. There is the summer kitchen colonnade that we're also requesting on the north side that also complements the lanai. And this is the small bump out for the laundry that we are requesting today.
Carlos, can you remind me, what was the additional square footage on the lanai?
The additional square footage on the lanai.
469, isn't it?
Correct.
So that, with the special exception, isn't it max 300?
Correct. That is what I mentioned. I mentioned that we're asking for the 300 in addition to we're asking for the 300 exception. On top of that, we're asking for the 299.
Oh, I know, I understand that, but I just thought that, did you understand what my question was, Ray? But with the special exception, the max is 300.
Yeah, Carlos, is this going to be enclosed on the north side? Or is it going to be completely open?
On the north side, the summer kitchens is completely open.
Okay. So when we got the application, we noticed it as a variance. And now they're kind of walking that back and indicating that, well, part of it is to exceed and utilize the special exception. So if they meet those criteria, open, unenclosed, certain percentages, then that would be that'd be fine. We can approve it on that. But then, of course, part of that, that won't get them their lanai, because the lanai itself, it would need a variance, even if you eliminate the laundry, right?
So that would be 2 variances, correct?
Well, it's 1 variance, but for square footage in two different areas, correct?
And also just to go stay with the 300 square feet. That's put in so there's a trade-off on the building.
Right, so again, we got this application, we originally processed it as a variance, so we didn't look to make sure that there was a total of 900 square feet that was open and enclosed. I imagine there probably is, just with my small amount of familiarity with looking at the plans.
So are we correct that basically what's being presented in our pack, there's the additional consideration of the 300 square feet? Because I can't see anything in our pack unless I'm misreading it.
No, there was nothing
There's
there,
no
and they
reference
have.
here to the 300 square
Yeah.
feet, which has been presented to us this morning. Is that correct?
The application does provide the special exception. If you have the application with you that we presented.
Isn't that for the setback, Carlos?
I'm sorry?
Special exception. In my pack.
Yes,
Exclusively
so
to-
that would be E, projects requiring special exception. And we're pointing out to section code 7072B as well as 70-75. And that is page 5 of the application. And we are asking for the proposed FAR to exceed as well as the reduced setback.
It's within this estimate. Right, it's within that document, but it's not in our pack here.
So when staff received the application, they indicated that they wanted a special exception to exceed the maximum permitted FAR. They were not allowed to do that because the amount that they sought to increase exceeded 300 square feet.
Right.
So we reached out to the applicant and did them the courtesy of putting it on this meeting, making sure that we could process it. But we said, we're going to need to process this as a variance. They said, okay, they got us the labels. And now in between the notice going out and this meeting, they've come up with a different way to present it, which is acceptable. I mean, we notice it as a variance, so they know that the scope of the project is to exceed it by a large number. I would just, ask that you consider the special exception that we're familiar with it, with the 300 square feet, with the trade-off of additional square footage, and then the variance that also would cover really the entire project, because the 300 square feet isn't going to get them what they need unless all they want to do is get the laundry room. There's also the special exception for the setbacks solely because this borders I believe it's a non-single family zoning district, so which is what they had addressed. And the attorney mentioned that it's a unique property, and that is called out for within our special exception that gives them a reduced setback, which is different than the special exception for increased square footage, which is different than the variance. So we have these 3 different things that are, and sorry that we didn't package it, but when we wrote the staff report, that was based on the notice that we had submitted or published to the neighbors.
And to labor the point, the 300 square feet special exception, there is a trade-off. I mean, that's when it comes in. Carlos, where's the trade-off?
Yeah. So what the 300 square feet entitles you obviously is unenclosed space, which is what we're asking for the lanai. 1/3 of that would be is what you're asking for. So currently we're asking for about 500 square feet of lanai. There is the existing lanai as well. So obviously you have to have a total of at least 900 square feet of unenclosed space. So we do have the unenclosed space requirement to be.
Let me just ask this, Carlos.
Sorry.
Because the trade-off is within the cap of your maximum FAR. So if you get a variance for extra open area, that's not included in the special exception criteria. So what is the existing open area? Is it at least 600 square feet?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so it would be met because they already, as it exists, have enough open area that they've utilized within that existing footprint. So they would be able to add this extra 300 without changing anything else, if that makes sense.
Correct. Thank you, Trey.
Thanks.
But is the commission or the board, are they looking to see where that is on the site plan? I mean, I don't think it's where.
I'm sorry, say that again?
Are you looking to see where that 600 square feet is located on the site? I mean, some,
Yeah, we could point it out, yeah.
No, I'm, are you saying, is it shown?
yes. I mean,
Well,
can you show?
can you show us on,
Well, all the numbers on the existing plan, we didn't go back and recalculate. We do have a site plan that was approved back in the original plans. I'm not sure whether we have that anymore. I did not bring that with me, but that's where all the numbers originated from. We didn't recalculate every square foot of the existing home. But we do have an approved site plan with the original calculations.
Okay, I think that may be.
On the site data table, it lists the first floor covered area is 570 on this document that you guys provided.
Yeah. I did not have the number with me. I apologize.
are we being present, basically, because this is so important, anything that goes anywhere near a variance, and we haven't even got onto the point of the 8 points.
Of course.
Considered, because it's so important. I want to make sure that we have everything in front of us that we are considering. We've been basically told very clearly by the commission that we have to get it absolutely right. Absolutely. If it moves forward. And I would like to see this in a really clearly, and I know, and I'm not saying you're doing it on the hoof and making it up. Right? You put an awful lot of thought into this.
Yes.
And to do it justice, my opinion is
having a chance to review it the way that it's presented,
to take full account of what we've discussed here about the points we've covered about the 300 square feet, covering that clearly in what we have to consider in our motions.
Okay.
That's my opinion. I don't know how the board feels.
I agree with you on that. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I just want to be clear what the request is or your comment is. Obviously, we're asking where the square footage is being taken from, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So we could definitely provide all those calculations
to the 300 square feet in the motions that we have to consider, because there's one special exception, as you say, it's very, very clear. The 15 feet, we meet that because of the multi-story,
right?
Multi-family.
Correct.
But because this is so important,
okay,
and we have to get it absolutely, well, we try and get everything right, but this is so important.
Would it, because obviously, as Trey was explaining, and the way that the application went in and how we came to find out that it was becoming a variance.
Yeah.
If we ask for, or is it simpler to provide the special exception for the setback and the 599 variance? Would that be a simpler way of providing? No.
Okay. What we want to see reference to the 300 square feet as well, very clearly.
300 square feet of the existing unenclosed.
The special exception you're requesting.
Yes.
There's two here. Aside from the variance, there's two, as far as I understand. One is for the setback, and one is to consider the 300. Sorry, not consider. Request the 300 square feet special exception. And I haven't got anything in front of me.
Then the variance would be the 299.
Yes. Yeah. Because then the variance relates to the special exceptions if we go forward with a 300 square feet extra. Does that make sense?
I believe it does. So let me just clarify what the board is asking for, so we have that information when we come back. And we thank you very much. So there's 599 square feet, right? That's
requested.
That's being requested. 300 of that, we believe, is under the special exception, which goes along with both the north and the east setback, a special exception. So when we come back, would it be helpful if in this diagram, we highlight exactly where that 300 square feet is, and then also highlight where the 299 is for the variance, which we know is definitely that, and then a little bit of a balance of that. So you want us to highlight exactly.
Meaning the laundry room?
The laundry room is 100%
to give us
variance.
as much information to make this informed decision as possible, please.
I completely understand. If I may request, however, can we go ahead and finish our presentation so we can get somewhat of an understanding of where this board sits So when we come back, we know how we're moving forward.
In terms of where we sit, it'll be, our position will be on what's presented. And as we said, this is not what we are going to make our decision on. I understand in terms of the use of time or whatever, but I don't want yourselves to do a disservice. Present, we've given you the guidance on how it can be presented to the board so we can really make that informed decision. And that isn't it.
I completely understand.
And this may have been part of your presentation, but for when you do come back related to the laundry room, it'd be helpful for me and probably the rest of us here to understand there's a lot of square footage in that home. Why the requirement to add on a laundry room? I mean, there may be a very good reason, but if that could be presented,
Where's the existing laundry room?
There is none. There is no current laundry room. Can we go back one slide back, please?
And I think reasons why it couldn't be situated within the existing footprint would be helpful.
Current laundry room is right
Okay.
there, which is a corridor.
Okay.
You said the current laundry room.
That is correct.
So
that is correct. There's a laundry area.
I understand.
Correct.
Okay, small, I presume.
It's a corridor. Correct.
Hi, I'm sorry. I'm changing the game midstream, so I apologize. In an effort to move forward, again, I understand your concerns. We do have contractors on site waiting and able to start work. So with that, would the board be amenable to us showing you an alternative plan that merely asks for a special exception with no variance? And if we can move forward with that, and if it was the desire of the property owner to come back later with that variance request, we can do that. I will say, just for the record, we have worked very diligently with staff, and Trey has been fantastic. I'm sure he's sick of my phone calls. We've also met with the board. The property owner, Dove, who is here, has met with the board of the multifamily building to our north. The president and 5 additional board members are here in support. They really want the privacy as well as we do, so we have been working collaboratively with them. But again, if you would appease me and let us show you a plan for just the special exception at this moment in time, and perhaps we can move forward on that motion.
How do you feel? Or do we want the whole package?
Well, there may not be a whole package. That may end up being the package.
How can you present the special exception if the special exception is over the amount of square footage?
No, we have a revised plan that keeps the FAR extension at 300 square feet. So what would be before you if you'd allow me to present that, what would be before you is showing a special exception for the 300 square feet, a special exception for the north and east setback, and no variance.
Okay.
Would that be fine?
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me, Malcolm.
Yes, sorry.
We are also residents.
We need you to go to the.
Yeah, sorry.
Well, I don't know if we want to allow public comment at this juncture, or if you want to wait until the conclusion of the applicant's
Put your hand
presentation.
up, and we did invite you, so that's my.
My wife and I are also residents of the building to the south of our condominium that we live in, and we have concerns, and we would like to be able to address them to you today.
Okay. In that case, can we put those concerns in the context of what we're going to be presented, as opposed to what the full package we've been here? Let's go down the route we've agreed, and then you'll know everything.
I'm sorry, you're going to have to speak into the microphone.
Sorry. Then we can go down. Let's go down the route of getting the presentation, and then your points might be addressed or might not, and then we'll take your public comment.
I just wanted to make sure that we
You will
don't get closed out today.
Yeah, not a chance. We always go to public comment.
Great, thank you, sir.
Thank you. So with that, can we get the presentation 2.0?
I'm sorry, I only have a hard copy, so maybe I can pass it around if I could approach.
Okay.
Well, between the two of you, could you hold it up here?
Yeah, I can.
Guys, maybe.
All right, can you all hear me?
Yeah.
Sarah, come on.
I think we're down the path. Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so here, I'm sorry, I'm not speaking in my microphone.
Yeah.
I apologize. So here, the laundry room is completely gone. There's no stub out.
Yep.
So it stays enclosed within the already existing structure.
Mhm.
The lanai is expanded, not as far east as we originally proposed in the presentation we just presented, but still extended, but stays within the 300 feet. The summer kitchen is also there, but not covered. It's that pergola that was somewhat previously approved, but shifted down to accommodate the summer
And
kitchen.
that is there because of the special exception that you're applying for the 20 down to 10 feet setback.
Correct.
And it's a pergola.
And it's a pergola, so it's not enclosed, so therefore does not trigger the FAR requirement.
Mhm.
So this plan, as held up like Vanna White, meets the code for special exception for the 300 square feet, the setback to the north and to the east, no variance.
Can you show the tent, the
Yes.
staff as well, please?
So again, Trey, there's no bump out for the laundry room. It stays within enclosed. The lanai does extend east, but not as far east as the previous plan. The summer kitchen will be placed there, but in a pergola style, so it does not have the square footage for FAR. And this is 300 square feet.
And now, with the public, because this may address your points, some of your points.
Okay, so the plan that was up there, there was a bump out here, that's the laundry room. That has been removed. There was also a lanai that further extended eastward. And it's been shortened, so it still extends, but not as far. So we stay within that 300 square foot. So special second one limit, please. And then there's a summer kitchen that is not completely enclosed, it's pergola. So that area does not count towards square footage.
That was mine too.
You still have a retaining wall in proposed with your revised plan?
That's one.
So this plan has nothing to do with the retaining wall. This is your letter. That is not on the agenda today.
It's not on the agenda? I thought that the entire project is on the agenda.
Yeah, what we have, the whole project was on the agenda. Then in the light of the presentation we had, we changed it because we said we haven't got the ability to move forward because it wasn't fully presented. However, what we're addressing is the one item which is on here, which is the setback being reduced from 25 to 10 feet, which is absolutely because of being next to the condominium that you live in. And so because we've gone down that route, there was a request to give a revised presentation just going for the special exception to accommodate that plan. And
Okay, will you review the request for extension of their pool in Lanai at some later date?
the pool, we haven't got an extension, a request for the extension.
Just
of the pool.
Lanai.
Just of Lanai. There's no request.
Well, we also saw this project 8, 10, 12 months ago.
No, you did not see the
No,
revised.
Not that part?
No,
Okay.
no. As far as we have before us, there is no reference to a pool whatsoever.
Okay, Jim. They revised the plan, unless they revised it back, because they were going to be extending the pool and create a.
That isn't in front of us at all.
It's not in front of you, but I think.
If it comes, so sorry to interrupt.
So there may have been something submitted to the DEP that you were looking at, but there's nothing that's being considered today that deals with the rear, any retaining wall or seawall or any structure or modifications to the pool. I don't know if that was approved previously or if it's in the works, but the only thing that we're looking at today is the laundry room area on the north side, which has been modified and removed. And an extension of the principal structure seaward on that north end. That's all that's being considered. Yep.
Well, as long as they do not have permission or think they have permission to move out, which they've already started to do, eastward towards the ocean and remove vegetation and all of that.
There's nothing in here which.
Okay, so as long as they understand they're not yet able to do that without further approvals, right?
Applications.
I don't know. That's not before the board today, and the board is not going to address that at all. That is not before them. Now, if you want to discuss that with staff and see what we have on file that's been approved and make sure that we're on top of any allegations of improperly altering the dune, we'll certainly discuss that on a staff level, but that's nothing that's before the
Yeah, we saw
ARPB right now.
photos of that construction work that looked like the dune was being
Yeah.
ripped up.
Yeah.
I mean,
So,
I don't know if that was previously
Yeah.
approved, but
that
that's
isn't
not
in
anything
front
that
of
we're
us today.
considering.
Yeah, just have on record that is not in front of us today, and the revised presentation does not involve that at all. We've basically the applicant has edged it back. Absolutely. There'll be public comment. In a moment, is there anything else you would like to present relating to this revised application?
I just wanted to add a couple of thoughts regarding the association next door. They have written a letter of support. I believe the president, PJ, would like to add a few words as well.
Right, that will go into the public part.
Comment.
Yep.
That's it. And
Thank you.
if you have any questions
In that
specifically
case,
about the
Can I
special
just,
exception.
yeah, real quick, can I get the total square footage for the revised project? Yeah, I figured, sorry, Carlos. What's the total square footage for the revised project?
This one.
For this revised project, there's going to be 300.
No, the entire house. What's the FAR going to be?
I'm sorry, I don't have the tabulation. May I borrow yours?
So you've got a gross floor area currently of 7155, is it just plus 300?
Plus 300, that is
Okay.
correct.
So it's 74.55.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Anything else, Trey?
I mean, I'm just showing based on their site data table, they're allowed 7141. So they had already
You just
exceeded
noticed
that
yeah.
more. So they would not be able to get an extra 300 because they can
That's
only exceed it by 300 total,
14 feet, right?
which would be
286.
which would be, I guess, 7341.
304 feet.
And they're looking to add 300 to the existing 7155, which would be 7455. So they're exceeding the
That's not
special
work.
exception criteria.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how I'm reading the site data table.
So they do acknowledge this now too in the red. Sorry for as we follow through with the different calculations on here. On the total allowable FAR, they do have that in red.
You see the red?
Yeah,
columns?
yes.
Yeah, okay.
I'm sorry, I'm not understanding why we would not be allowed to be to provide these special exception.
So here's the site data table that you provided.
Yes.
Right. So it shows per section 7072B up to 300 square foot may be exceeded. You're requesting 300 over the FAR, which is 7441. But you're saying you're adding 300 to the existing, but the existing already exceeded. I mean, it's like 10 or 15 square feet,
Right.
but it's still exceeding.
14 square feet. Yeah.
Yeah, it's 14.
Okay, so are we not able to get the 300? You're saying that there's a fraction of that we would be able to.
You're going to get 286 square feet. depending on the method.
296 is what we were able.
86.
86.
I mean, that's how it
That
works out.
I think that's plenty. I mean, well,
286 sounds beautiful.
No, we're just doing we're doing the simple math right here.
Yeah.
So-
yeah, exactly.
So we have a proposed project that meets the rear setback. If the board finds that it meets the rear setback because it's a special exception. And we have a request to add a certain square footage. So before you are the criteria for those two items. I don't know if you're comfortable with that presentation and moving forward based on the stipulation that they will comply with the maximum permitted FAR and provide clear indication of where they're meeting the open unenclosed area that's within the maximum permitted FAR that's part of the special exception to get the extra 300.
Right.
So
The sequential.
those are all required. So I don't know if you're okay to make a recommendation to the town commission with that proposal, or if you'd rather something that's more polished, which the commission typically requires.
We did try and go,
Absolutely.
yeah, we did try and go
It's too
down that road.
complicated.
Yeah, if it had just been that and whatever, we always try and get people across the line. But because this is, again, important.
But you got the feel for where the number will come out, but
Yeah,
it needs to come back real tight.
yeah. But what I'd like to do is also have the public comment for us to consider as well. So I know I'm sorry, I don't know your name.
Jim Gammon.
Mr. Gammon, can you have a line? And then we'll go for anyone else who wants to speak at the public.
Thank you, because I was fixing to pull a Rita and say, this is unacceptable.
Yep, yep. We tried.
Good morning. My name is James Gammon. My wife and I are year-round residents at Gulfstream Shores Condominium, 3851 North Ocean Boulevard, next door to 3813 Ocean Boulevard, which you're considering today. By the way, I should say we live on the south side of our building, facing the north side of 3813 Ocean Boulevard. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm here today representing myself and my wife. I am not representing the Gulfstream Shores Owners Association or their board of directors. I'm here to express concerns with the proposed site plan changes to the structural footprint at 3813. We are concerned that it could potentially damage and erode the vegetated protective dune that fronts the ocean side of not only of 3813, but also of our property 3851. Also concerning is the potential for noise generating equipment such as air conditioning compressors, kitchen ventilation fans that may be located on the north side of the 3813 residence. The reason I say may is that we have not seen a drawing showing their location. There is currently an AC compressor on the north side, against the north side of the building, which has created problems for some residents in our building. We have no information on decibel levels from AC or kitchen fans or any equipment that's located adjacent to us. And this has the potential to adversely affect our quality of life. These really, what I've mentioned so far, these really are the symptoms of an overarching problem. And that is that the house is already very large for the lot upon which it sits. And expanding it seaward toward the ocean and northward toward us has the potential to create problems. I should say there's been some confusion between some of the last two plans that we have received. Both of these plans were printed in the agenda for this meeting by Ms. Bazile. I'm sorry, I didn't pronounce that right.
It's Basil.
Basil, got it. Okay. There was a plan that was submitted on March 7th to the Florida Department of Environmental Protection. As an example, that plan did not show a vertical retaining wall out in the dune, in what is now dune. Another plan submitted about a month later to the town of Gulfstream, and a date on the plan is, I believe, April 11th, a little over a month later. It does show the wall. And it shows some other things that I'll go into later, changes from the plan that was submitted on March 7th. So the feeling that we get is we're working, trying to aim at a moving target here.
Mr. Gammon, I'm sorry to interject there, but just to put, as hopefully allay some of your fears, we have decided that this is going to come back in its ultimate form. And therefore the history part, absolutely it happened, it took over what place. But what we will consider is when this application, what was the word, is polished, when it comes back polished, that will absolutely be what we make our decision on. What's gone before, that's not what's in front of us. And also in terms of you and your wife having access to it, it's a public record, and we recommend, well, more than recommend, that's what you should consider at any point. It's not to negate anything you're presenting here, just to say anything that was presented before was before. we will take the case on what's presented to us on that day. On the
Okay.
next day.
My understanding is that whatever the board approves of will go to the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, which has oversight over things that involve the protection of the waterfront and the safety of waterfront dwellings, and is associated with the protection, protective dunes that they have.
Right, and on the plans, on the plans that were presented us today, it does show the old coastal control line and the seaward vegetation line. So these are taken into consideration.
Right.
But again, it'll be taken into consideration on what's actually presented to us at that point, whether it needs to go further.
So should I express my concerns now, or?
My suggestion is wait till you see what's presented.
I see.
Because, and that's, as I say, it's a case of, we don't know, we've asked the client to present, and that's what we have to base our decision on, not supposition.
But are they under the impression?
You have to be.
Oh, sorry, you have to.
I was sworn in.
Yeah, you have to be your name, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm Margot Stahlgammon. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I wanted to know whether our client or the clients that are here are under the impression that they can move forward with the proposal to the east.
Right.
No.
Nothing. No.
They cannot.
No.
Thank you. I just wanted to.
Yeah,
why
absolutely.
it's complicated
Yeah,
sometimes.
but the clients absolutely understand that permission is required.
Okay.
We've had this situation where people do things and then ask for forgiveness.
They'll be coming back in the May.
Okay, thank you for.
Okay.
So you
I
bet.
appreciate
Yeah.
knowing that.
As it relates to the special exception and the variance we discussed, though.
Yep.
We didn't discuss anything else regarding a seawall or anything today.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, then the two things that I will discuss are the rear setback toward the ocean and the side setback towards the north, which you did discuss today. On March the 7th, well, in March, I should say, the project engineer sent the site plan that existed at that time to the Florida Department of Environmental Protection for a review and comment. It's like a consulting, they were requesting a consulting letter. And the drawing, the site plan had a dimension on it, and that was from the coastal construction control line to the front corner, front southeast corner of the proposed extension of the covered lanai. And that dimension was 152 feet 5 inches, and it showed a rear setback of 15 feet from the old construction control line. They wrote a letter, said 152 feet 5 inches, that is the maximum that we will allow. Okay. The drawing that we received in dated April 11th increased that dimension to 163 feet with a 10-foot setback. So it appears that Florida DEP is only going to approve 152 feet with a 15-foot setback. So we would encourage you to honor their decision. With regard to the setback on the north side, it's been requested to reduce it from 25 feet to 10 feet to accommodate, as you've heard, the summer kitchen and the laundry room. Reading from the Town of Gulfstream Code, Section 70-75 for special exception setbacks, paragraph 2C, Charlie. A minimum 35-foot separation between the proposed structure and structures on the adjoining property shall be provided.
And again, the code we're going to consider, there are certain conditions that allow this special exception even to be considered because it's next to a multi-place home.
Well, the only thing that was presented that I've seen is a request to reduce the setback from to 10 feet.
That's what's in
But
front of us.
what I'm saying is that as scaled off the full-size drawing, the edge of the laundry, which may be overtaken by events here.
And can I just say that's back to, it may be, but on record, the laundry's been withdrawn, which is why
Correct.
I really think that your feedback and very good about the Department of, what their recommendation is. But until we actually see what they're presenting, it's
Right.
on record that the laundry is going to be taken back, but we want to see what is actually proposed.
Okay.
Yeah.
The kitchen is, the edge of the kitchen is about 27 feet from our building, not 30, not the required 35.
Right.
I just want to make that
Yeah,
point.
I think the point that the applicant should take away is the fact that one of your concerns was the positioning of the AC units and the vents and things like that, because we've had them before. That's the concern, and obviously you'll take account of that on your plans. So the comments you've made are being heard, and they will be included in the final proposal we get.
Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you.
So with that, can I get a motion, please, to take account of this will be deferred to time certain? Well, sorry, other public, sorry, that's my fault. Other public comment, please.
Yes.
My apologies.
Good morning, and thank you for taking the time to listen to all of the things that are going on here. I speak for the board of Gulfstream. I am the president of the board. Most of them are here today. We have had meetings with Mr. Seidman. He came to our monthly board meeting with everybody there. Gave a fantastic presentation, and the board is 100% behind and support his project.
As presented then?
As presented
then? Because it's a different, unless you saw, well, we take the point that there was engagement and we always ask the applicant to engage with neighbors.
I saw both of these.
Great.
However, what you're doing today, we've gone over that, and Mr. Seidman has given us his word that whatever he does on the property, we will have input as far as the shrubbery and the things that it's going to enhance both of our properties and make it a much better place to live. In fact, he likes it so much at our place that he bought a unit there.
Fair enough.
So, and it's on the south side looking at his property. Yep. So I think he's going to take into consideration
what he's looking at.
What he's looking at.
Fine. Thank you for the feedback.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep, please, it's public. This is a public forum.
I'm Doug Seidman. I'm the owner. So I just wanted to say hello and thank you for your consideration. And I will embrace the process that we're going in, but I didn't want to sit there without introducing.
And thank you. And
Thank
can
you.
we have on record, thank you for engaging the neighbors. We always ask any applicant to engage the people who are closest to them. Thank you.
The spirit is win-win, and we're in collaboration around our landscape architect here. There's a collaborative effort to make everything to everybody's satisfaction.
Thank you.
I want to just, the HWP, in case you're worried, in case you're interested in what it stands for, I'm going to just say HWP stands for Happy Wife Project. So,
okay.
Just wanted you to know.
Hopefully everybody will be happy. But just to.
Thought I would introduce a little levity.
Thank you. We do try. Yeah, we do try. But just to say, we will take the case as it's presented to us at the next meeting. We're not going away with any preconceptions, but thank you for all the input you've provided today.
Appreciate your consideration.
Thank you. So with that, could I have a motion, please, to defer to time certain? Or next month? Will you be back next month? Okay. So next month.
I'll make a motion to defer the application 23-8 to the next meeting in May.
Second.
Mr. Roach,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Canfield,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Doherty.
Yes.
Chairman Murphy.
Yes. Thank you, everybody. We now move on to item 4, which has been deferred. Right. And we have a letter to the effect that because the applicant wants to do more work on the landscaping, as was a major request of ours, they deferred. Can I just raise a point, please? The neighbour to the south, Mr. Neumann, has requested that whether we give the applicant some not warning, but can we inform them that he wants to know the drainage solution because of the runoff, because it's being raised. That he's asked that that's taken into account in the application.
Okay.
But for when they come back, just to, it'd be terrible if they come back and that they haven't, they have considered it, but Mr. Neumann comes in and
Sure.
says,
Well, I mean, if he's going to,
he'll be here at that meeting.
so there's a neighbor, just Renee, if you could note, that has concerns about the drainage on the last application. Ryan and I think Nicole Weeks, 2520 Avenue. Also, basically, when we reach out to their architect of record, we'll just have him make sure that he addresses that, any potential drainage. Now, Mr. Murphy, is that, is it a north, south, east, west, or is it just
He's
general?
To the south. He's to the south. He can't speak for, basically they're on the corner. Thank you, guys. He's on the corner. So if it goes into the street.
So we'll make sure that he is,
Neighbor to the
is
south.
aware
Yep.
of that.
Thank you. And now we move on to items by staff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we have a referral, as I mentioned earlier, from the Town Commission regarding application materials for level 2 and level 3 architectural site plan review. So staff has not prepared anything for this meeting, but we just wanted to kind of put it out there with some direction from you. This is something we discussed last month. We're not ready to make a decision. I feel like sometimes we're too hasty when staff gets up and says, all right, tell us all this information, ARPB, and you're kind of caught off guard, and maybe not enough thought is put into it because staff kind of dumps it in your lap. So I didn't want that to happen. So I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, we had 3 presentations that provided various levels of input. One that provided no input on what was eventually presented, right? Or, as a piece of paper.
Yep.
So I think, Renee, you mentioned the Town Commission definitely wanted an aerial view. So that's something that they're looking for. So we're gonna sort of staffs do our homework and say, these are what we've typically seen. This is what we believe the commission wants to see. These are the things that we believe that you should see on the various applications. And then maybe we can provide that as part of the agenda packet and ask that you just review that before the next meeting and say, okay, let's move this here, let's move that there. That's not necessary for this particular approval, because with level 2s, we do have smaller items. So we're not gonna have a super comprehensive review if all we're looking at is a revision or, a small addition or a minor accessory structure, something like that, that would be a level 2. So we'll look at the criteria for level 2. We'll try to match it up with what we think that you would want to review.
Right. And this late night reading we've got here in front of us.
That's just to replace it. It goes into
It's
your
a
new case supplement. Yeah. It tells you on the first page where to take out and replace.
Okay, to take out and replace.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Can I interrupt real quick? Is there thought about 3D on
Yes.
level 3? 'Cause
Yes.
That's what I would.
For everything too.
As the attorney said.
For elevations and everything.
You
we
guys
want
have seen you've seen a lot of applications. You've seen some really good ones.
Yep.
And which probably included 3D aerial type photos, views from the street that might include neighbors. So you've seen those, and we'd like to have something that's, kind of a list as we meet for pre-applications with applicants, what they're going to need. And you've seen really good presentations and some that not so good. And so we'll, as a staff, we'll talk to you guys more about that.
And I think we also need to see more samples, because a lot of times you get these renderings and the color might look one way on one page, you don't know what blue they're using.
And the roof tiles.
Yeah,
sometimes
exactly. So
don't
I think
look
samples
like.
are important.
Okay. Thank you, Greg. Anything from board members? Nope. In that case, from the public? You are the public.
Yeah, I have great confidence in everyone there.
Thank
Oh,
you.
you be careful.
Yeah, I was going to say,
I'm
I'm going to
say
see him again. Yeah. And my check is in the post to you. With that, thank you, everybody. Meeting adjourned.
Was that our longest?
No?
But we're only
Or-
about 15 minutes short. That's at least.
And I came in actually